All right, let's dive into some of the absolute weirdest places on Earth. I'm talking about spots where it seems like the rulebook for physics just gets thrown out the window.
So, are there really places on Earth where the laws of physics just stop working? I mean, it's a wild thought, right? But that's exactly what we're digging into. These are real, documented mysteries that have had scientists stumped for, well, a very long time.
Okay, first up, we're heading to Poland. And trust me, this place is something else. It looks like it's been pulled straight from a fantasy book. Or maybe something a little spookier. They call it the Crooked Forest, and you'll see in a second, that name is spot on. Now, what makes this so mind-boggling isn't just one weird tree. We're talking about a whole forest, over 400 pine trees. And get this, they were all planted around the same time, and every single one of them has this perfect 90-degree bend at the bottom. It's like they all decided to take a sharp turn before shooting straight up to the sky.
And that right there is what turns this from just a quirky roadside attraction into a real, genuine mystery. People have thrown out all sorts of theories, but nobody has a concrete answer. There's no paper trail, no one who saw it happen. All we have are these strangely silent, twisted trees.
So you've basically got two camps on this. One idea is that people did this on purpose, bending the saplings to grow curved wood for things like building boats or furniture. Makes sense, right? But then there's the other, much cooler theory. What if some kind of weird, localized gravitational anomaly pulled the tree sideways? It's a real head-scratcher, and honestly, the jury is still out.
All right, let's leave the spooky forests of Poland behind and head over to the U.S., specifically to the incredibly dry and desolate landscape of Death Valley. This time, our mystery isn't about strange growth, it's about strange movement.
This is one of those things that just shouldn't be possible. You have these massive rocks, I'm talking some of them weigh hundreds of pounds, that are just sliding on their own across this perfectly flat, dry lake bed. And you know they're moving because they leave these long, unmistakable tracks behind them in the dirt. It's wild.
And here's the really creepy part. For decades, nobody ever saw them move. Not in person. People set up cameras, scientists studied the area. Nothing. It was like the rocks were waiting for everyone to leave before they went on their little journey. It really felt like a ghost story written in stone.
So, the big question was always, what invisible force is pushing these huge rocks? For the longest time, it was a complete puzzle. But then, finally, science caught the culprit. It turns out to be this incredible, perfect storm of conditions. First, you need just enough rain to make the ground slick. Then, it has to get cold enough overnight for that water to freeze into these huge, thin sheets of ice. When the sun comes up, the ice breaks into giant panels, and all it takes is a gentle wind to push these ice sheets and the rocks trapped in them across the muddy ground. So, mystery solved. But what a cool solution. Okay, for our last anomaly, we're going to switch things up. We're moving away from things you can see and into the world of sound. But this is a sound that only a handful of people can even hear. Let's go to Taos, New Mexico.
Just try to imagine this for a second. There's this constant low hum in the air, a drone that never stops. For a small group of people living near Taos, that's just life. They've been reporting it for decades. They say it sounds kind of like a diesel engine idling way off in the distance. The problem? Nobody knows where it's coming from.
And look, this isn't people just imagining things or having a ringing in their ears. Real, serious scientific studies have gone into this. They brought in super sensitive microphones and all sorts of equipment to try and pinpoint the source. They listened, they measured, they analyzed everything, and they found absolutely nothing.
0. That's the number of identified sources. After all that work, all the different theories, people have guessed everything from secret government experiments to weird underground geology. We are no closer to knowing what's making that sound. It is, quite literally, a phantom hum.
So let's step back for a minute. We've got strangely bent trees in Poland, rocks that sail themselves across a desert in the US, and an invisible, untraceable sound in New Mexico. I mean, these things couldn't be more different, right? So what's the common thread?
Well, when you break it down, each one starts with a really basic question that just makes you go, wait, how is that possible? What bent the trees? What's moving the rocks? What's making that noise? And the cool thing, as we learn from the sailing stones, is that these aren't necessarily magic. They're just really, really tough puzzles that are waiting for scientists to find that one missing piece.
And that's really why these mysteries matter so much. They're not just weird little stories. They're like the blank spots on an old map, the places that say, "Here be dragons." They show us the absolute limit of what we know right now. And they're a powerful reminder that we still got so much to discover about the planet we live on.
So really, the common thread isn't some secret single answer to all of them. It's the question itself. It's the curiosity that drives us nuts trying to figure them out. Whether the mystery is solved, like the stones, or still unsolved, like the forest and the hum, they all show us science in its purest form. Just being curious, asking why, and not giving up until you find an answer.
Which kind of leaves you wondering, right? The sailing stones went from a total mystery to a perfect science textbook example. So, which one's next? Will we figure out the crooked forest? Will someone finally track down the Taos hum? What's the next big thing that seems totally impossible today, but will be common knowledge tomorrow? Finding out? Well, that's the fun part.